These are my parents, Sion and Malia Haufano. They had a lot in common before they met each other. Both my parents were born in the Pacific Islands. They never completed high school. They both migrated to New Zealand for a better life in their 20s. English was their second language. They met at a carpet factory in Onehunga until my dad worked his magic and scored a first date with my mum. The rest is history. Growing up in a family of 7 kids, my parents worked long hours on low wages to try and provide for their family. There were weeks we struggled financially as a family, which meant no power or lights in the house sometimes, cold showers, and little to no lunch for school. But regardless of our situation, which might change each week or each month, our parents made sure we never forgot to pray and express gratitude to God for everything that He had given us. So no matter your circumstance, there is always something to be grateful for. And as ironic as it might sound, coming from my parents who were high school dropouts and held no qualifications whatsoever, they always encouraged us kids to pursue higher education because it would lead to a better future and better opportunities. Years later, even as a grown married man with 3 kids of my own, my parents' advice to seek further education and learning has stayed with me throughout my whole life. My marriage, as a parent, and even in my career and now my businesses. And that is because the principle behind that saying of always seek further education because it would lead to a better future, it's all about learning from life to improve your life. It's not just about becoming a great academic student. It's also about becoming a great life student. So for the remainder of my time, I want to share 3 lessons that life has taught me, which I believe will help you improve your life, your relationships, and your personal life as well, or your professional life, like your business. So here is my first lesson. When challenges come, focus on the learning. My daughter Lucia was 2 years old at the time, and she had this obsession to just open our TV cabinet drawers and would throw things all over the place. Whatever was in there, just throw it all over the place. And one time, she decided to do it after I had just done some cleaning. I just finished cleaning the entire house, and I decided it was time to relax on the couch and just sit down and admire my hard work. My wife was sitting next to me, and she was happy, of course. Then out of nowhere, my daughter Lucia toddles along, approaches the TV cabinet drawer, and without hesitation opened that drawer like there was no tomorrow and started throwing things over her head. Anything, everything landed anywhere. Now in my mind, she was making a mess. So how do you think I responded when I saw that situation after I just cleaned the house? To be honest with you, I instantly raised my voice and I went, "Hey!" And my wife politely interrupted me before I could speak another word, and in her most kind and polite tone of voice, she said, "Sweetheart, she is still a child. She is learning." Instantly, I was humbled. We were both looking at the same child, the same situation, but all I could see was the mess, when all my wife could see was someone learning. When we go through life, challenges come. Oh, and they will come. And when they do, there are those who choose to focus on the mess, and there are those who choose to focus on the learning. This is my first piece of advice. When challenges come, you could choose to respond in many different ways, but the response that will give you the most success and happiness in the long term is responding to your challenges by learning from it. This is what separates a lot of successful people from the rest. Successful people use challenges as an opportunity to learn, not an excuse to give up or take blame. Here is my second life lesson that I want to share with you. No matter who they are, serve them. Years ago, I was on the train home from AUT when a teenage boy was disturbing the other passengers on the train. He was using profane language or foul language and harassing other people about their religion, their skin color. It was seriously getting out of control, and you could see how upset other people were becoming, but no one was doing anything about it. I stood up without hesitation and walked towards this young man, and I could see people watching me. It was as if they think I was going to shut him up with a cool wrestling move or something. But instead, I sat down next to this young man and I started talking to him as if he were already a good friend of mine. No judgment, just respect. However, I realized that he was also carrying a blue ukulele with him. I kindly asked him, "Can you teach me how to play?" And he did. And we started to sing songs that were familiar to both of us. And I also realized that the other passengers were joining in too, singing along. And some of them even made the effort to make friends with him. And without even realizing it, this young man was converting his enemies into friends using his talent. That young man and his friends calmed down, became respectful, and left the train on a more positive note. So what did I learn from this situation? Don't focus on how a person is bringing out the worst in everyone, but focus on how we, all of us, can help bring out the best in that person. It's not easy, but it's necessary. All I did was see him as someone who he can become and not as he is. But more importantly, I asked him to contribute by sharing his talent. The life lesson from this experience for me was this though. If you want to bring out the best in others, serve them. How can you bring out the best in them? How can you bring out the best in your customers, your employees, your marriage, your children? When you genuinely serve others without conditions, people will respect you, they will trust you, and most of the time reward you. People tend to be more loyal and drawn to those who truly support and care about them. So if you want to bring out the best in your relationships with people, whether it be your children, partner, customers, employees, whoever, if you want to bring out the best in them, serve them. Serve them unconditionally. Serve them continually. And here is my final lesson that I want to share with you. And it's about never giving up. Keep going, keep growing. Now, this is an experience from my first corporate jobs as a salesperson years ago. Now, at the time, although I was graduating soon from my master's in marketing, which made me confident to take on the next step in my life, my career, I still felt like a complete newbie in my role as a sales rep. I worked for this beverage company, but I felt like I was thrown in the deep end. I remember the first time I was left on my own to visit all the clients that barely knew me and to try and negotiate deals and make sales. But as I arrived to the first client of the day, and I remember sitting in the car park, in my car, all nervous. It took me a while to rehearse things in my mind before I summed up the confidence to go in and see the client. When it came time to do deals with my client, it was the worst experience ever. Everything that I was trained on went out the door, and I noticed my customer becoming so frustrated with me. And you won't believe this. He was so frustrated that he called me useless to my face and said that my company should replace me with someone more experienced because I was wasting his time. He said it so loud with the office door open that as I walked out of the office, there were other reps or sales reps waiting in line who heard the whole conversation. They definitely laughed at me and gave me that, wow, that was bad look. I was so embarrassed. I felt like giving up that day. I could have easily given up that day, but I didn't. I decided to stay on and keep going and approach this challenge with learning. And plus, I needed the job. I desperately needed the job to help provide for my pregnant wife and baby that was coming soon. I quickly reflected and committed to make improvements. From that day onwards, I worked harder and smarter each time. Over 2 years, eventually, I became one of the best salespeople in the country. I developed great relationships with all my customers. And remember that same customer who yelled and called me useless? Became a really good friend of mine. We would go watch rugby games together and even talk about family. He would even give me toys and clothes for my kids as well. So what is the lesson here? The lesson is this. Things always get hard before they become easy. Sometimes things don't go your way, but you get up and you keep going. Don't just keep going and doing the same thing. Keep going and keep growing. Be passionate about ongoing self-improvement. Treat everything like you do with an assessment here at university. If you find the wrong answer, try to find a better or correct one, because learning is a lifelong journey, not just something that you do at university. So those are my 3 pieces of advice or lessons that life has taught me that I want to pass on to you. And I promise that if you apply, it will help you achieve more success and happiness in the long term. So 1, when challenges come, focus on the learning. 2, no matter who they are, serve them. And 3, never give up. Keep going Keep growing. You got this. And remember, it's not enough to just be a great academic student. It's also about becoming a great life student. Congratulations to you all. Thank you for your time. Malopito.